Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Lina. I'm the sales director in Polypipe Middle East for civils and green urbanization. And I'm not a big fan of presentations, to be honest with you. I like to speak to you directly. I want to add some stories about what everybody were discussing today, but this is something I personally experienced. And this can set the scene to you of why infrastructure is important. So one time I used to live in Ajman. So I've been in UAE over 20 years now, and I have seen the amazing shift and change. So I can say around 15 years ago, I used to live in Ajman, and it rained heavily. I honestly can't remember the year. And I was trying to walk to my car, and I ended up swimming, and I lost my shoes. And I opened my car. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I want to get in my car, and I want to get my shoes, and I want to go back to the building, and I didn't know what to do. Literally, I didn't know what to do until somebody came and he said, you know what? I'm on this side. It's a higher side. Come in my car. Yeah, I don't have water in my car. So he took me back to the building. Another story, which is funny and sad in the same time, which is very, very important to just imagine it, if you were in that situation. So in the flooding we mentioned, I think I mentioned that in one of the events also last year. So my son was in the hospital. I was in the house with the other kids. And my husband had to rush to his factory, where he works, just to get the laborers out. And by the time all of this happened, my house almost flooded. My son was alone in the hospital. My husband couldn't leave the factory, go to him, and he drove his car to an area where he could park the car, and then he had to swim to the hospital. It was that dangerous. It was that risky. It split a family into 3 locations. So if we consider this into our daily lives and look at our children, what do we want for them in the future and how we want them to live later on, we will take this more seriously. So one of the things that everybody spoke about today, and every event I attended, is we want a change. But I think there is a change. It's happening, but there is equivalent resistance. And I think this is happening from fear. And people don't want to say, I'm going first. But I'm not afraid to do that. I'm someone who speaks very loud. And one of the discussions we had just before I jump into my presentation, I was talking to a few people here during the break. We know each other since a long time, and we share the same passion. And we were all saying the same thing. When is this going to start? So we can put people together on one table and start taking the lessons, say, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. Every person in this room said the same statement. I don't know what to do. We wanted to change. It's very difficult to change. But it's not. It's not. I can tell you, I'll give you an example. So we were discussing with one of the developers. He was asking, if I implement your solutions, for example, it's a bit costly. I do understand the value in the next 50 years or 100 years. How can I charge it to the people who's going to buy my property? Which is a good idea. See, you can find a solution. You can put the cost on your property and charge them for services. But don't ignore the idea in the beginning, just to save the cost, which is something I'm going to touch on now. Now, as being in Polypipe for years, I'm not here to promote the company specifically, but I'm very proud to be there because we actually believe in water, and we are very passionate about providing a solution that can help and on a wider scale. It's not just something that will work only today. So when we speak about critical infrastructure, why do we call it critical? Because it actually can be, people can use it as a threat against us. They can use water, electricity, utilities, whatever. They can take it away from us. And this is why we call it critical. It can affect our life. It's an asset we own. And if somebody takes it away, it creates a big disruption, whether in economy or social or environmental aspects. And this is why we need to take it seriously. And especially with the current situation, I think everybody's aware of, this is a lesson learned. Now, talking about water, what did we do to create this problem? It's urbanization. Population is increasing. I think everybody agree to that. People are moving to cities, looking for better life, better income. They want, their kids to be in better countries where they get better education. And this is what happened. So we removed the landscape. We created a big concrete mass and roads, asphalt, all of this we made. So what was the result of that? The result of that is a climate change and environmental impact, plus a stress on the infrastructure itself, because you need to provide services, as everybody understands that you need to provide services for those people. So one of the main things that happened, which we were discussing, I think everybody were discussing, is the flooding. So why did it happen? There is no finger pointing on anyone. I'm sure that nobody predicted that. But one of the main problems we have is people keep looking at the small. Yeah, they keep saying, you know what, that's enough. I don't need more. But they don't look at the bigger picture. Actually, if you want to look at the critical infrastructure, you should be in here. You should be looking at the whole picture. It doesn't matter if I have a villa or a big master plan. I should think about the people next to me. I should think about the next 50 years. I should think about what's going to happen to what I'm implementing now in the next 10 years. The problem is we keep looking at smaller is enough. That's the biggest problem we hear every single day. And this is what we have done. So we built buildings. What do those buildings need? They need light, water, people need air, they need shading, they need energy, they need food, they need education. So all of this, and I can keep adding, all of this is a man-made, and we are the one who have done that. We removed what was natural, but how can we fix that? And another thing is, when we have created these cities, we have increased the temperature, which everybody's talking about right now. I live in an area which, a bit far from the city. I can say it's cooler, but it's not cool. It's still hot, and there is a lot of problems when it comes to the heat, and everybody can feel the heat wave. So it's either too hot, too cold, it doesn't rain, or it rains too much. How can we control that? I think this is the problem. Value engineering. Value engineering is used in a wrong manner. It's not about cutting the cost. Value engineering is about making things more efficient with less cost, but add value. And I think the main problem we have right now, and I can give you an example when we spoke about Saudi Arabia. So our solutions, for example, they are specified on big projects. And we were talking about stadiums, I think, a minute ago. So the solution there is for irrigation, for stormwater management, for cooling the atmosphere. Once it goes out, after paying for your consultants and investing a lot of time, creating sustainable solutions, and reusing the rainwater, and talking about it as an asset, and we want to minimize the energy, we want to remove, mitigate the flood. Once it goes to the construction, let's value engineer that. And this is where the whole thing is killed. Because we keep hearing the same thing. I can find an alternative that works in the same way. No, it doesn't. It looks the same, but it doesn't serve the same thing. And this is the problem. We don't understand the 50 years or 100 years value. We keep looking at the short-term cost, how much we're paying now. And if we stop that and we look at the next 50 or 100 years, then we will achieve what we want. So what do we need to do? We need to look at sustainable cities, resilient cities. We need to create living cities where the air is clean, the water is available, kids can go out in their bikes and they are not scared. Yeah? You will not worry about your children going out between these buildings. And this is not only for water, even for streets. I actually saw something interesting on the media today. It shows the difference between green and green. So you can use green as a romantic picture, or you can use green as an actual sustainable design, where you have proper roads, proper lighting, proper landscaping, proper buildings. And the statement was, stop using green for romantic things, which was really actually to the point. Green is not just a color. We speak about green, but it's also connected to blue. And this is where we need to look at the whole strategy. Now, another thing, which is the sponge cities. Sponge cities is not new. This can be a solution which is already implemented in Dubai. We are aware that they started that, and it started to be replicated in other areas of UAE. Coming to adjacent countries, yes, it just started to shift slowly, the idea of sponge cities, because of the need. They can't provide infrastructure for any new project that is far, far, far away from the original, provider. So if you have a ministry or a municipality in this place, and then you build a community that's hundreds of kilometers far away, you don't need to dig the whole desert and provide that solution to, or infrastructure for them. So they started to change the concept of looking for localized solutions. And this is where the sponge city came. Plus, we are looking at the solutions from roof to underground, including buildings, roads, landscaping, infrastructure. So it's not only the infrastructure. Everything is connected. The water moves in a cycle. And if this cycle not managed properly, the water will move from point A to point B, then goes back to A. We haven't done anything. I keep hearing words in projects. We're using dewatering. We will keep running that for the next 10 years. Why would you do that? That's a big cost. And what will happen if your dewatering stops? I'm just giving an example, because we only look at one side of the story, which is the infrastructure. But we forgot that we can, again, use the roofs, and we can actually copy the nature that we removed. So if we design roofs ready to accept the green concept, the green roof, then we can mimic the nature, and we can bring the cycle back. The problem now, when we visit projects, they say, we want green roofs. When we go there, I can't even walk. The number of utilities on the roof, it's taking most of the space. And that is a big, big problem for us. And we'll just walk away. Like, this is like a mission impossible to us. We can't do anything with that. So we have to just go. We will leave it. Now, this is something related to the business we do, but I'm not going to talk about product. The reason I'm presenting that is just the change that happened in the region, which I know that it happened. Yes, it's slow, but I have to give credit to everyone that it has already moved from gray infrastructure. So the gray infrastructure is almost dead right now. And the main thing is because of the capacity, the maintenance, the construction cost, and how long it can, and the CO2 footprint, of course, which everybody complains about, especially about concrete construction, and the efficiency. So there was a study to compare, not a product, there was a study to compare design to design. So if I do the traditional design, take rainwater from point A to point B in one direction, I will end up with massive solutions, lots of water, deep and big. The new approach is the source control and the zero discharge, which means you split the solutions between different areas. And that will make your solutions shallower, smaller, easier to access and maintain. And this is where we need to look at. It's not, I sometimes sit in meetings and people say, but this is what we know, we don't want to change it. But if you don't want to change it, then nothing is going to change later on, especially when it comes to irrigation. So this is another thing we are trying to push in the region, which is the passive irrigation. And this is not only irrigation. This actually saves your infrastructure because the water table is increasing. One of the factors is irrigation water. It's increasing the water table. I know a lot of projects, when we started, I've been in Polypipe now 11 years. I know projects where when we started, the water table was 10 meters deep. Now it's 3 meters deep. And I know that their infrastructure is submerged. And this is where, when the flood happened last year, that was one of the reasons. There is no space for water. And there is no study for the ground conditions. That's another thing we look at. have you done a proper study for the ground? Can the ground actually provide space for the water? If you didn't do this in advance, of course it's not going to work after 5 or 10 years. So when we are encouraging these solutions, which can be smart actually, these solutions, because we're looking for innovation, we are looking for connecting to AI and in IoTs and all of that, this is actually one of them. So this can be connected to weather stations. It can predict if there is a flood. It will empty the system once the alarm happens that is going to rain. And it will take the rainwater and discharge the irrigation water, which will help protect your property. So one of the major damages we have seen in the last event, because you might have a solution in the infrastructure, but you leave it free discharge from the building. How? How is this happening? Well, when you control the water, you should actually control it from roof to underground. It's a cycle. Just look at it as a cycle. And this is, again, what we were discussing about when we came to the insurances. Yes, some insurances lost money, and now they are very hesitant to pay or even insure the buildings. I was in a meeting weeks ago. One of the insurers, he asked me, how do we evaluate if this project is safe to insure or not in terms of rainwater? So we discussed with him the responsibility matrix, where everybody stands. What do we need to do in the early engagement, very early stages, prepare for the future, build it as per that, and who's gonna watch that and make sure it's done properly. So that will link insurance, financing, and the builders. Even financing, when we speak about green financing or incentives and all of that, there should be somebody linking all of those people, put them together on one table and say, look, you want insurance? Yeah? You want green financing? You want incentives? You need to achieve that. And this is where we need to see the next shift. It's not a shift only in technology. The technology already implemented now. But we need to put more people on the table. Look at the water coming from the sky to underground. Do the whole picture. And then look, as I said, between insurance, financing, and the builder, how can you do that? And even the cost when you split it on those projects. There's so many things we can do, but we need people to sit on one table, not to work in silos and everybody just work on their own. If we put people together, we can think together. And this is the main thing we keep talking about. Sorry, I'm going to pass this. Okay. I don't want to talk about that again. It's about the lead. Lead is very important because it controls the performance of the project. And we encourage having lead on your projects because this is one of the certifications that's very important that will help achieve the performance you want and you paid for in advance when you hire that specialist or that consultant. So this is how you control it. Another thing is the return on investment, which I think some investors, they are not looking at. With all my respect, I know some are. I don't want to criticize people, but there's some others, they only look at how much I'm paying now. The return on investment is very important. When you have a safe environment, you have a safe community, you have a good reputation. This flooding caused a bad reputational damage to many people in the region. Not because they have done it intentionally. Nobody predicted that rain, but they were not ready. And there was a big fight. And some people left those communities and left those buildings. And we don't want this to happen again. You want to invest right from the start. Look at how can I increase the rent? How can I attract more people? Why would I pay more to live there and not pay cheaper to live here? There must be a reason. Just look at the value. How do you promote this to people? How do you promote this to developers? And even the developer himself, when he wants to sell it to people, the first thing should be safe. This is the word that we should always say. We should not say green, and it should be safe. I can make anything green, but if it's not safe, I don't want to be there. So this is where I think people need to start talking. Now, look at this. This is the last thing I'm going to talk about. How did we shift from here to there. And that's Dubai. The reason we shifted, because people were thinking and they put plans and they were working hard and they actually invested time and efforts to do that. And we want this to continue on a larger scale. Let's not stop the discussion. Let's keep it live. And it's better to think together instead of working in silos. Okay? And thank you so much.